How will the government's plan to recapitalize the public sector banks affect the banks and the Indian economy in the future?
Well, I think the purpose of capitalization is essentially to provide enough equity for the banks to strengthen. One level, it deals with the historical issues we have, the issues relating to the NPA, having the capital to take the provisions, put it aside. But more important, it gives us the ability to grow. This time, the investment in banks like ours of equity, like Bank of Baroda, is essentially growth capital. We're not looking at it from a perspective of funding some write-off. We have enough balance sheet strength to stay on our own. But what we intend using it for is to be able to accelerate growth. Implicit is the assumption that when you go for growth, we don't do the same set of mistakes as we did before. But it does positions us with an ability to be in a self-sustaining mode after a point of time. So the round of capital infusion that is proposed, together the amount of capital Bank of Baroda will be able to raise, coupled with the organic profit it is going to generate year after year, would enable us to grow by about 15% annually compounded growth on a very sustainable basis. That really is what it is. So you can call it, at least for us, as some form of a kick-starting the whole process for us.
In 2015, Bank of Baroda officials recently stumbled upon illegal transfers of a whopping Rs 6,172 crore, which is US dollars 970 million in foreign exchange. What do you think banks can do to avoid such things? Do you think there are enough accountability measures in place for banks?
See, we run a large banking system. Sometimes things go wrong. It's not to defend them, but that's the inevitability of the system. What we are doing and what we need to do more probably is to build in higher degree of automation for control, a much more thoughtful process around division of responsibilities. So today we are working on these two things. The more you automate, the more controls you build in, things work better. And also in the way we are structured, we are doing a variety of things whereby we are doing a better segregation of duties and responsibilities so that there is adequate amount of balancing happens in the financial decisions we take.
You had the opportunity to work in leading positions in both public and private sector banks. What major difference comes into play while playing managerial roles in these two different sectors?
Well, that's a question people ask me often, and my standard response to this is like this. I tell people what I learned once from Rusi Modi when he spoke to us in XLRI. There is no such thing as a private sector. There is no such thing as a public sector. There are good companies and there are bad companies. And so the challenges before the banks might be different, may not necessarily arise out of its public sector character. It might arise in the way it did its business, and the opportunity to it also might vary, not necessarily because of its ownership. So I would place less emphasis on ownership and more emphasis on about meeting the market requirements. But then there are some structural rigidities in the public sector in terms of compensations we can pay, etc., etc. But also what I find very interesting and in some way very endearing is that the kind of importance one places to monetary measures, incomes, etc., is very much less pronounced in public sector, and particularly in a bank, the level of loyalty people have towards institution is extremely high. And I've been moved by many stories where people have sacrificed or not seen the children grow and have continued to accept transfers and move from one place to another. These are stories that are not always told. What always comes sometimes is lazy intellectual analysis, which tends to stereotype people. But I do know about many good colleagues of mine who are good wherever they are.
Bank of Baroda owns a 44% stake in India First life insurance company, while in collaboration with other entities like Andhra Bank. Do you view insurance as a major diversification avenue for banks? What are the exciting avenues do you see coming into play for diversification?
So I'll try to answer the question in two ways. The first thing is Bank of Baroda is a universal bank in that it deals with all segments, whether it's agriculturalist or whether it's industrialist, whether it's MSME or entrepreneurs, and we see opportunity for growth everywhere. In some area it may be more pronounced, in some area it may be less pronounced, but having said everything, there is opportunity space everywhere. So as a universal bank, we are tending to look at it. As far as India First is concerned, it's a complementarity of product, and it's an institution that over the last 2 years has picked up much more steam than it did before. They're growing at around 80% CAGR, which is fantastic. And I think the partnership between India First and Bank of Baroda in reaching bank assurance to our customers is a very valuable component of our business strategy.